All right, Jeff Zimmerman here with FightNews.com. I'm with the former junior lightweight champ, Jamel Herring. He's got a big fight tomorrow night in Vegas on the top ranked card of Janibek-Dignum. How you doing, champ?
I'm doing good. I feel great. I'm just excited to get back in the ring, so I'm happy.
Yeah, I think everybody's excited to get you back in the ring too after your last fight against Shakur Stevenson, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But I got to ask you, man, you're a big guy on social, and I saw the underdog tweet and the thumbs up. What drove that? What prompted that?
Because I've been in this scenario many times, and when I'm in that scenario, crazy things happen where I don't look like the underdog. I look incredible out there, and I just do what I do. I don't follow the script as others may have written out for me.
Yeah, and we talked last time, we were just talking here that during the Dallas snowstorm a couple of years ago, we talked about your life and going into the Marines and what you've been through. So this is really just business as usual for you.
Yeah, yes, sir. Like I said, I feel like I'm in my natural atmosphere and in my element. So again, it's like you said, usually business for me, but it's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. This is what I enjoy doing. This is what I want to continue doing for maybe just a little bit longer, but this is what I want to continue doing.
Yeah, well, you're still at the top of your game, and you ran into a juggernaut in Shakur Stevenson in your last fight, and now all these pound for pound debates. I'm sure you're seeing them on Twitter going on, and I just saw one from Bredman. If Shakur's not in your top 10 pound for pound, then your list probably isn't worth much. What do you say?
Listen, no, you got to give him his respect. Not because he beat me, but he beat two world champions back to back. Two actually at the top of the list when if you're looking at pound for pound in Ring Magazine, just their rankings within the divisions. I was actually number one at that point in time when he beat me. Then Valdez got the number one spot. He beat him, so you gotta respect him for him being young right now, but and becoming not only a three-time world champion, but a two-division world champion as well. So you gotta take that consideration.
He really looks like a generational talent.
Yes.
In this era, you shared the ring with them. I mean, would you agree?
Oh yeah, he's special. He's just special. That's why I don't take nothing from my defeat to score. Of course, you would want to beat a special talent and put that on resume. But at the same time, I don't lose any sleep. I think I took it as a lesson. I congratulated him. And then we actually have a better relationship today where we actually communicate on a regular. And I just want to see him continue doing well in his career and continue going further and doing bigger things.
Now he did just announce that he's got something big, a big fight coming up. But would you say just in the 130-135 division, is he the guy to beat in your opinion?
He's a threat. At 130, 135. Hell, if you put him in the right fight at 140, the kid is special. And the kid is good. And like I said, what I mean by even in the 140, if you can't hit him. If you can't hit this kid, he's going to be a problem for anyone. He's going to frustrate you. Even a great fighter, a great champion, Oscar Valdez, showed a lot of frustration in their last meeting. And this is a guy, and Valdez actually was able to touch Shakur more than anyone out there in terms of copy box, but yet he was still frustrated and just couldn't find his rhythm or mark against Shakur.
Yeah. And you wanted that Valdez fight at one point. Do you still want that fight?
Yes, I believe I was told that I'm still in rank number 2 at 130, and Valdez is ranked number 1, with Shakur being the lineal champion respectively. So if Shakur happens to move up and they they vacate that lineal title, and Valdez, wants to get back on top, I will gladly welcome that fight. But first things first, I have to take care of business this weekend.
Yeah, and you're fighting a guy, undefeated, Jamaine Ortiz, 15-0, 1 draw, 8 knockouts. Kind of a young rising guy by many accounts. And I don't know, do you feel like you're a gatekeeper? I mean, are you being viewed as a gatekeeper for this guy?
No, not at all. Because honestly, I had bigger names before Jamaine Ortiz came around. For starters, a lot of people don't know, I've actually offered the George Kambosos fight if Devin Haney didn't agree to sign the contract to go overseas. They called me up He said, hey, champ, if you want that Kambosos fight, we'll gladly give it to you. And so that was an option, to get back into the title mix. And when that fell apart, because Devin did the right thing, being a true champion, and wanted to go to Australia to fight Kambosos, they came back to me and said, "Hey, champ, how about fighting former world champion Richard Comey at 135?" I agreed to that, but Richard Comey's team they declined the offer. I guess because Richard Comey plans on moving up to 140, respectfully. So then they came back to me again and said, "Hey, champ, how about you fight Robson Castillo?" I said, "Hey, let's make it happen." But I believe Castillo had visa issues, so that fell apart. And during this time, the whole plan was to get back in the mix so I could finally fight Miguel Berchelt in September around Mexican Independence Day. But then we seen what happened to Miguel Berchelt. So if you look at these names I'm giving you, they're clearly not meant for gatekeeper fight.
Right.
It was just like they were supposed to be built to bigger things, even going back into a world title fight in a new division. Well, in a division that I've been around to in the past against George Kambosos. It's just that things didn't happen that way. So Jamaine Ortiz was called upon, and that's it. It was not more. I don't look at it as like that guy as a stepping stone. It's just that I was given. I had to take without it.
And you want to get back in the ring.
Exactly, and I just want to get back in the ring. I wanted to keep my the May 21st date was my date. So they wanted to. I wanted to keep this date. So, hey, I told Top Rank, do what you got to do. Either at 130 or 135, I don't care. Just get me back in the mix of things, and we'll discuss bigger things after we take care of business on May 21st.
So you mentioned the Kambosos potential fight. That's the first time I'm hearing that. I don't know if that's been out there. Is that breaking news?
No, I actually spoke upon it a little bit, but I haven't for me, since it wasn't I got the fight, it wasn't something for me to really boast about. But I took it as a badge of honor because, like you said, again, I came off not my best victory. I mean, my best performance was Shakur Stevenson, but we were still fortunate to still get mentioned in a huge opportunity to become a multiple world champion in a new division. So that was a huge. That was actually I took it as a sign of respect because they could have went with anybody. Honestly, they could have went with anybody, but they were willing to give me that the opportunity. And I look at it now as if that door opened before, I'm sure it'll open again. But right now, and I'm one of the most honest guys out there. I felt like with a good victory, it feels more that I deserve that opportunity now instead of just being put in the right place at the right time. I'd rather earn the opportunity than for people to say, "Oh, he was left in the replacement and just happened to be what was out there left." No, just let me fight and prove that why I deserve the opportunity, and maybe it'll come back around again, or maybe a big fight at 130 will come around. But that's how it plays out for me.
Well, you mentioned being honest. You're the most transparent guy I know online. In talking to engaging with the fans and so forth. So I think it's
I make no excuses. I make no excuses. Like I said, again, you never heard me say one excuse about my defeat to Shakur Stevenson. Like some guys, you see even some high class caliber fighters, there's always something that happened why it went that way. No, Shakur Stevenson was just a better man, and I accept that. Nothing was wrong. I wasn't injured. There was no hand issues, no shoulder injuries. No, he was just better. He was a better man.
Right.
Give him respect. Give him his respect, and learn from it, and keep moving.
Let me ask you this, Jamel, because you're older, you've been around, your story is something else. You have a book and everything. Devin Haney now is going to Australia, which you give major props for, but he's going there without his dad. He's going out there without his trainer, one of his trainers, Ben.
You know what? And you know what? That was the biggest issue, Jeff. The big issue was they weren't sure he would go because of that. And that's why my name was brought into the mix. Because, my team, we were, you seen it. I mean, I traveled to Dubai to fight Carl Frampton. So that was the main thing. The main thing was they didn't know if he would take that offer to go because they had a feeling that he wouldn't be able to take his team with him. So that's what I say, hey, Jamel, if he doesn't, and the date, they know George wanted to stick on that June 5th date because it was a big opportunity for him in his country, rightfully so. So they were saying, hey, if he doesn't take it, last minute replacement will throw you in the mix. So that was that, and like you pointed out, that's a big thing. And but I'm surprised, but I'm proud that he didn't pass up on this huge opportunity, and he just did what he had to do, and I commend him for that.
Yeah, I even read online somewhere that people are talking about maybe having a laptop or something in between rounds. I don't see how that can even happen, but who knows?
Who knows? Yeah, I mean, with technology, you might have a Bluetooth in your ear and you're just giving them instructions from the father. But I mean, they gotta do what they gotta do. At the end of the day, he has to remain focused and focus on the task at hand.
Yeah, and let me ask you, because you're now with a new trainer. You left, Bomac, Team Crawford, had a lot of success. I think it rejuvenated your career. Jump started it, became a champion, and now you're with Manny Robles. So you talk about Devin not going out there without his dad and his team. How much is that trainer? I mean, you've been around for, with different camps, different trainers. How important is that?
That's very important. But for me, a lot of people don't know, I've actually worked with Manny in my corner in the past in the amateurs. And Manny Robles helped me get to the Olympics. He was in my corner when I had to qualify for the Olympics. So I held a training camp with them. And I held another camp with them when I had to go to London for the Olympics. So Manny Robles is a familiar face. It was just the smartest move this late in my career to do, instead of trying to work with somebody that I didn't really know of and I had to form that chemistry again. That'd have been difficult, but it was a no-brainer, and I actually had a great camp. I actually learned new things and actually tweaked on old things that I haven't done in a long time. And me, even now, my body got more time to rest in between. And that was the main factor. That's why when you look at me now, I feel so rejuvenated and upbeat, because I'm in a good place. I'm in a good mood. I'm in a good spirit. So I commend Annie. We all formed as a team. We spoke every day up camp to figure out how we both were feeling, and we just kept it moving. And here we are now.
Did you feel like you just maxed out with Bomac and the team? Was it just?
I don't think it's so much about maxed out. I think my body was just from like the work regimen of that on that team. Because a lot of people don't know, man. I was going through training 7 days a week for weeks, for eight. That's a lot, and there's no time in between for me to. And I'm getting old. Let's be honest. I'm an older fighter now, so I can't do what I was if I was like 17, 18 years old. I can't, So with Manny, it was work smarter. I mean, of course, work hard, but work smarter while doing it.
Right. And Team Crawford, you got a lot of guys there and a lot of competition, but this seemed like for you at this stage, it made the most sense.
Thank you.
Yeah. Going back, I wanted to ask you, because I know you're a fight fan. You do the broadcasting now, so you're in the media too a little bit. I was with Roy Jones last weekend at a local show in Dallas, and I asked him about Canelo and Bivol. Roy's the only guy to go from middleweight to heavyweight, become the champion. So
right.
No better person to speak on that, because there was talk about Usyk and, floating around and all that. What did you think of the fight? And I asked Roy about, Bivol coming down to 168, and he still didn't give Canelo a chance. What are your thoughts on that?
I just think that styles make. I'm a believer in styles make fights, and I'm a huge Canelo fan. I was rooting for Canelo that night, but I believe that his ceiling is at 168. These guys, I mean, Kovalev. If you look at it, Kovalev did give him some issues in their fight until he stopped him. But Kovalev was an older, light heavyweight. Bivol is still a guy in his prime.
Right.
And if you look at that fight, you can tell once he started getting his confidence and not fearing what Canelo was doing, that's when he would catch punches and he would throw flurries in combinations that we never seen Canelo get hit with. And I think that Canelo was just, because of the weight also, his feet were just too flat. It wasn't that same bounce he had at 168 or 160 or even at 154. And I agree with Roy, because Bivol has always pointed out, Bivol has overstated that he's not the biggest light heavyweight, and if he wants to, he can make 168. So if he can make that weight also comfortably and still have a chance to rehydrate up to where he would maybe at the same around the same weight that when he fought Canelo the first time, what more of a difference will there be? And then you also got to put in the mentality factor in it. Maybe Canelo may have some thoughts in his mind like, man, what if I can't beat this guy? And on the other side, Bivol feeling a lot more confident where he's taking more chances and doing things that he felt that he didn't do in the first fight.
Obviously, it's Canelo's decision. Anything he does, It's up to him.
I feel like he had all the title at 168, and there's no shame in that. He can still make great fights at 168. I mean, I love the guy's a great fighter. He wanted to test himself, and I respect that. But hey, man, there's nothing wrong with you taking going back to where you're naturally at and still making. You can still make big fights. There's nothing. No one's going to shame him for that. Main thing he got a lot more respect and credit for making that jump and trying to go for more greatness.
Does his ego tell him to fight him again? Do you think?
That's the issue. The only time will tell if he has that ego where he can't accept it and he wants to go back around for another round of it. So that's the main thing. But like, there's no shame in him going to 168 and getting the likes with like Benavidez and those guys out there as well.
Right, a lot of great fights at that.
Absolutely. There's still a lot of great fights that can be made. But this is why we have weight classes.
Right. Let me ask you real quick on Shakur Valdez fight, Jamel, and I'm here with Jamel Herring, the former junior lightweight champ, Jeff Zimmerman, Fight News. Were you surprised that Shakur handled Oscar the way he did?
No. And I like Oscar. Oscar is a great champion in his own right. Again, and go back to the style. When you look back at Valdez Castillo fight, Oscar had the issue with the boxer. He had the issue with the jab and the range. Shakur is the master of that. That's been the majority of his game, is distance and timing. So when you guys seen it, what was it? It was just basically beaten by a jab, beaten by the jab. Held at a certain distance. Didn't let Oscar fight. He basically forced Oscar to try to box with a guy who was a master for boxing. So that I wasn't surprised. I mean, Oscar Valdez can still go out there and make great fights and beat a lot of great fighters out there, but just that it's the styles make fights, and that style was all just wrong for Valdez. I mean, if you look at it, if you break down Oscar's resume, how many slick southpaws has Oscar fought?
Right. And we'll wrap it up here in a minute, Jamel, and I appreciate the time. I know you got your big fight tomorrow night. You were at the Charlo Castillo 2 fight last weekend. Jamel Charlo became the undisputed champ at 154. I think he's finally getting, some deserved, praise. I mean, he's fought a lot of the top guys, and
right.
I think he's top 10 pound for pound. He is on my list. But right. What did you think of that fight being there live?
Great fight. Congrats again to Jamel Charlo. He put a hell of a performance. Also, I want to give a shout out to Brian Castano, who I've seen myself working in the gym. Great, a good fighter in his own right, but Jamel definitely deserves the praise that he should have gotten probably a long time ago. But he's getting it now, and I feel like he's only going to get better. He still has that hunger. He's not satisfied, and I respect that. But it was a great fight. It's a rare occasion where the second fight is better than the first fight, and that's what happened. That's what we got. That's the treat we got.
Yeah, and you ran into your Olympic teammate, Errol Spence Jr. Posted the pic out there with them, and I probably asked you this last time because everybody probably asked you. Him and Bud Crawford seems as close as it's ever going to be to fighting. They both are talking about it now. If they get in the ring, Jamel, what happens?
That's a 50-50 fight. I think, honestly, my honest opinion, and I love Errol. Errol's my brother, and so is Bud. But if you would have probably maybe say the Errol maybe a year ago or so, you probably would have leaned towards Bud. But Errol, being a smart, open-minded fighter, he made different adjustments to this camp. He brought in a nutritionist. He brought in a strength coach. And he looked phenomenal against Ugas. I mean, Ugas is a really good champion in his own right, and we've seen how that played out. And now that people are really getting more behind again, Errol Spence, like, hey, this is the Errol Spence we knew that was possible after he beat Kell Brook, who was at that point in time the #1 welterweight when he took Kell Brook's title. So, and then like again, you gotta give credit to Errol. He's out here taking belt by belt, but Bud is a different animal in his own right. They you tell Bud he's losing, as you've seen the Sean Porter fight, and he goes out there and stops the guy in the next round. So Bud is a special talent in his own right. So that fight, those guys just bring a lot of different tools and dynamics that makes a great clash. And I believe it's a 50-50 fight.
Yeah, and most people that I talk to say it's a 50-50 fight. The one edge they give Bud is the versatility, it seems like.
Right. But I mean, yeah, and that's rightfully so. But I also could say, as you see in Errol's fights, the guy keeps pushing forward, and he'll try to break you down, and that pressure can sometimes break you down mentally. Now, Bud is a mentally strong dude, but sometimes you have to fight when you may not want to. You may want to just take a step back, and Errol's right there in your face, making you fight.
Right. He doesn't give you any space. What does Ortiz bring to the table, Jamel, for tomorrow night? Youth. But no, I bring people. I always take care of my body, so that really is not really a factor to me, honestly, because when my first world title defense, I fought Lamont Roach, who was 10 years younger than me, and the mandatory to the world championship, and I got through that task of my first defense. So he's an ambitious kid. I think from Jamaine Ortiz, but Jamaine Ortiz hasn't fought anyone at this level. And I've been in there, whether I've been on the wrong end of the decision or not, I've been in there with a lot of great talent from all over the world, and that experience goes a long way, especially when you still have that hunger and you still feel that you can do great things in boxing. And I mean, just today, I'm pretty sure you've seen the weigh-in, Jeff. I made weight comfortably. He struggled. He really struggled. He really struggled. And like these are things that you have to learn from past experience, how to do things the right way in boxing, because the littlest things may hurt you in the long run. But you're planning to go back down to 130, Jamel.
Oh, I'm planning. Listen, anywhere the opportunity is there, Jeff, I'm there. But that's me. But that's me. That's a fighter that discipline. People will be like, "Oh man, you moved up to 135. That's wrong for you to eat." That's fine and all, but I'm a hungry fighter. So if I had to go down to 130, trust and believe I will go down to 130 next week if it makes sense. But I will do it the correct way and the right way. Right.
And who knows? Kambosos, Haney, I know they got 2 fights on their deal, depending on who wins.
Right.
You might be in the mix there down the road.
Exactly. So, I mean, I feel like there's still a lot of great opportunities, and it's not gatekeeper level. There's still a lot of great opportunities out there as well. I just have to take one fight at a time and use everything to my advantage, and to get these opportunities.
And let's wrap on this. You mentioned, you're an older fighter, 36, world champion, an Olympian, a Marine,
Jeff, you see me I post everything on social media. Do I even look like it? Like when I'm 36 and because I take care of myself really well, but I also keep that fire within me to continue going. I know I've done a lot, like you said, Olympian, world champion, but I just feel like my story isn't over. I feel like you might see another book down the road, but I have a lot more to do.
So you don't have a timetable though, Jamel?
No, I take one. But honestly, Jeff, if I'm being honest with you, I will say I'm at a point. I just take one thing at a time. Like I can't give you a whole timeline, but I just want to take one thing at a time. And I might feel differently tomorrow, but I'm taking it right now. I feel great. I feel good. So I'm just taking one thing at a time.
Well, and you have a broadcasting career that you're doing in parallel, which I'm sure will be sitting for you when the time comes to hang up those gloves. But until you do, Jamel, we'll be watching. And I can't thank you enough. Jamel Herring, junior lightweight, former champion, fighting Jamaine Ortiz tomorrow night in Vegas on the top ranked card of Janibek and Dignum. Man, it's always great talking to you. You're one of the most realist guys in the sport.
Thank you.
Love watching you fight, and looking for big things ahead. I appreciate the time.
Anytime, Jeff. Anytime. We'll talk again in the future.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jamel.